One more thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a glow outside of the stroke. So the stroke is cool, but I also want to give it a little bit of a glow too, because I think it'll look pretty neat. So let's go back to the man, and we're going to add in another layer style. So go down to the effects button, click on that, and go to outer glow. And this is going to add an outer glow for us. Now we can pick a color, so let's just start with white. And you can see it's glowing way too much. So you'll want to manipulate things. There's the opacity. I'll usually turn it to 100% until I kind of get the spread and size where I want to. So you can adjust the size and bring that down, and the spread. Now because our stroke is white and the glow is white, you can't see what's going on. So let's change this to a very awkward color. So you can see that we can have this cool stroke, and then we can have this other glow outside of it. So if we do the spread, it's going to make it bigger, kind of like a stroke for us. If we do the size, it'll blow that out. And then if we turn the opacity down, it'll have a nice little cool glow around them. You might be on normal mode. Let me show you that. So there's different blending modes. This is for normal mode, but I like to brighten it up, so I use the screen mode whenever I'm creating this. It just kind of mixes with the background and brightens that up a little bit. Let's go ahead and change the color to a color we might use. Like, let's pick this blue again, because that was kind of cool. We'll make it that bright color. Maybe even bring it down a little more so it's a little brighter, but stay in that same area. And we will just kind of go around and play around. We don't want it to be overpowering, so we want it to look good. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so this is where I ended up. 30% opacity, 18% spread, 54 pixels for the size. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK and just kind of see how that looks. And it just gives this little glow feature outside of the stroke around him. That stroke might be a little too thick. Now, if we want to make any adjustments, the great thing is we can always click on any of these non-destructive elements inside of the layers panel and fix those. So let's say the stroke is too big. I don't like how thick that is. I can double click on stroke, and we can go in and change it. So now we can try 3 pixels or maybe even 2 pixels. I think 2 is a little small. It starts looking pretty jaggedy. So we'll do 3 pixels and we'll hit OK. And that looks better. If you don't like the glow, you can go in and double click on the outer glow, and you can go ahead and make those changes. Or let's say that we don't like the background, the way that it's looking, and we want to change the gradient map. Well, we can double click on the gradient map, pull up that original gradient, and now maybe we can adjust the colors and see how it looks now that we have the completed image. We can try some different colors, like maybe this brighter reds. And that's a great thing about using the layer styles and the adjustment layers, is that you can do all of these things in a non-destructive manner so that you can go in and edit them later on. You can also do this with filters too. You can use smart filters, which will let you create a filter non-destructively. So I'm going to just go ahead and hide this all for a moment. And here's our original background layer. Let's go ahead and make a duplicate of that. And we're going to call this background blur, because we're actually going to blur it out a little bit. And if we go up to the top and we click on filter, you can see that we have some blur options here. So here we have the Gaussian blur is a very popular one. So let's go ahead and click on that. And it's going to, this is a lot, so let's bring that down. And you can see 0 is not blurred, and as we brighten that up, bring that up, it gets more blurry. Now this is really great because we created it on a new layer. So if we hit OK, we can go through and we can make our edits. But again, we can't change that later on. So to get around that, what we can do is we can use a smart filter so that we can make those edits later on if we need to. So let's go ahead and just delete that. We'll go to our background layer, go up to the top, click on filter, and then convert for smart filters. You want to click on that, It's going to say to enable re-editable smart filters, the selected layer will be converted into a smart object. Hit OK, that's fine. It's turned that layer into a smart object layer. Let's go ahead and rename it. And then now let's go and add our filter in. So we're going to go to blur, Gaussian blur, and we'll just start off with 3.9. That's fine. And now you can see that the layer changes. It actually looks like one of these other layers. So we have a smart filter with a Gaussian blur. So as we go in and we bring in all the different edits and make edits to our document that we've created, if we decide, okay, the background is not blurry enough or it's too blurry and we want to change that, now since we set up a smart filter, we can double click on that Gaussian blur. And if you watch this background area here, you can see that we can actually blur that out. So depending on how much or how little you want to do that, I blur it out a little bit. Just if it's too sharp and I really want to bring everything in focus, you can give it just a little tiny blur and that'll just help do that. Now this image already had some natural focusing blur inside of it, so I don't want to get too crazy with it. I want to leave it a little sharp, but sometimes I'll go in and just blur it out and it just makes everything in the foreground pop a little more. But that's another way that you can use non-destructive layers inside of Photoshop. So that looks really good for our thumbnail. We're finished, we're ready to go, and now we can go ahead and save this out. So I'm going to first save it, go to File, Save. That saves my YouTube thumbnail.psd file. And now I'm going to go down to File, and I can go to Save As or Export. If we go to Export, we have a quick export option. We have Export As, and then we have Save for Web Legacy. Let's go ahead and click on Export As. And this is going to give us information about our document. So here we can see it's 1280 by 720. Even the PNG file is underneath 1 megabyte. So we could save this out as a PNG file, but let's go ahead and change that to the JPG file since we said that's what we were going to do. The JPG file compresses the image and it takes it down to 430 kilobytes, so half of a megabyte. So we've reduced the file size in half just by using a compressed JPG file format. It'll make it a lot easier for us to add this into YouTube and easier for YouTube to load that up for us. So we just want to make sure we have everything set to 100% quality. Our width and height 1280 by 720. All this looks good. Go ahead and hit Export All. And then it automatically gives it the name YouTube thumbnail.jpg. We'll hit Save. And now we have our saved PSD file that we can edit later on, but we also have our saved YouTube thumbnail that we can edit. So let's go ahead and pull that up in Windows Explorer and take a look at it. And here is our final image. This is the image that we could actually go ahead and upload to YouTube. This is the YouTube thumbnail.jpg file. It's less than a megabyte. It's a JPG file. It's in the right resolution and aspect ratio, and it looks really good. It looks great. You can read it as you zoom out. And so hopefully this gives you not only an idea about how to create this YouTube thumbnail, but how you can create your own. And I've given you some different tips and tricks and ideas for creating thumbnails, not only for YouTube, but any other social media platform in the future. So I hope you enjoyed it and look forward to seeing what you come up with.